Hi everyone. I'm Tim Kearney. I represent the 26th district in Delaware County. Actually, with the new districts, I'm all in Delaware County now, which is a nice thing for I think for all of us. I'm really pleased to be here. We were very, kind of involved in hemp, trying to understand, what its capabilities are and what it could actually mean for the folks here in Delco. Delco is perfectly situated as a place to literally make products that can be made out of hemp. And our friends at Jefferson University are, I thought it was 5,000, he thinks it's more like 50,000 items that can be made from hemp, but it's everything from like single-use bags can be made out of hemp, perfectly biodegradable hemp. All your paper towels and your toilet paper could be made out of hemp instead of out of trees that are cut down up near the Arctic in Canada. There's all sorts of things that make sense for us. We have lots of farmers in Chester County, and a few in Delco who would like to be growing hemp. There are some of them who are, but there are impediments. There are things in the way, and most of them come down to the kinds of things that you were talking about earlier, and that's this old idea about marijuana and cannabis and everything else, and what it really means. It's literally the war on drugs is what's holding us back to try to keep advancing this forward. So as I said, we were very much interested in this. We were working on it right up until the pandemic hit, and we got distracted with a few other things, and couldn't keep sort of pushing on it. But we're back, and we're trying to do. I want to shout out for the P3 folks, because we're been working with them, with Judy Wicks, on all sorts of things, not only for around hemp, but also around recreational legalization as well for marijuana. It's a long misunderstood crop, and it was finally legalized, back in 2018, really because of the push, of Mitch McConnell of all people, which is kind of crazy, but he does know that all politics are local, and it was a huge thing for Kentucky. But Pennsylvania always was the hemp capital of the country, and we're hoping that it will be again one day forward. We're really trying to keep an eye on what kind of policy things we can push and how we can help develop markets to make the fiber aspect of hemp what we think is the most important. Right now, my understanding is between 90 and 95% of the fiber that's grown in Pennsylvania is destroyed, because the people who are growing it are only interested in the flowers and the leaves in order to get the oil for CBD. You guys probably know better than I do, or in terms of details, but that's my understanding of what we're dealing with. And it's really just it's a shame, because we could be really using this stuff to do so many good things for not only for our planet, but for our economy as well. So we're currently in the 4th year of Pennsylvania's Industrial Hemp Program, and it's run by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, and they're responsible for issuing permits for hemp growers and processors in the state. We've had great conversations with the secretary and department staff, and they're very supportive of the idea of developing a market, particularly one here in Delco for hemp. But they're also clear-eyed about hemp not being a miracle crop. So, they and we would love to see a commodity market grow for hemp, so it eventually could be another crop that farmers could sustainably use for crop rotation. The regulations that are put on the way hemp is grown right now are onerous, and they're nonsensical in many ways. So we're pushing on that. 2019, the first year of the program, the department issued about 320 permits for over 600 growing sites around the state. It's a lot of interest, but many folks rushed into it without having customers lined up, or didn't have the knowledge needed to grow a successful crop. Obviously it's a chicken and egg thing, sort of. It's like the market doesn't develop until there's stuff ready available, and there's not stuff ready available until there's a market to sell. And I think these guys may be discussing that a little bit later as we move forward. It takes some learning to grow a crop that's not been allowed to grow for generations. and you can't ask your neighbor what techniques they use. You can't call up the agricultural extension agent and ask for help, because they haven't grown it before either. So it's a learning process, it takes time. So this year, the department issued 275 growing permits and 53 processing permits, including research permits in both categories. Growers and producers are building knowledge around the growing and production processes. But there are even a few growing permits and processing permits in Delco, which is surprising given how developed this county actually is. So the majority of hemp that's grown in Pennsylvania is grown for CBD. We talked about that earlier. That's the market that investors have been interested in supporting. And it's helped building capacity, but we haven't been able to sort of make that next leap to taking the fiber and turning it into the products that we can actually use. And that needs an investment by somebody for a centralized processing plant in order to kind of make it possible. There's many unanswered questions about fiber, but there are experts in the room about, who are here tonight, which is great to see, who can actually answer those questions about how, what literally needs to happen. And last time I talked, we were talking about like an investment of like $5 million in a machine that we could be centrally located. Does that make sense, or is that optimistic?
That's light.
That's light, okay. So it's, well, like I said, it's been 2 years since we focused on this, so it's, there have been a couple of legislative issues related to hemp that we've seen come up in the last few years. For one, the FDA hasn't approved the use of hemp seed for animal feed. So there's been lots of special exceptions that have been discussed to allow farmers to use it here in Pennsylvania. There's also been complaints about needing more options and flexibility for remediating hemp that develops delta 9 THC levels beyond the 0.3 threshold that we talked about. My understanding is that now when it goes above that, it needs to be destroyed as opposed to be modified, which is it's an easily done thing. There's been stirrings about hemp processors concentrating hemp buds for delta 8 THC, which is not a traditional chemical compound found in marijuana, but seems to actually give people a high. So we've heard legislators talking about regulating delta 8 in addition to delta 9. But to this day, none of these proposals have gone anywhere, and they won't be moving through the legislature this year. There's an election coming up. There's a couple of things that are going to happen but not things will happen, but not in the legislature. I'll put it that way. One piece of legislation that did move forward this year was the legitimate cannabis banking law, business banking law, which we fought for a long time. It eliminated legal gray areas when it came to lending and banking with medical cannabis and hemp businesses. Basically, the idea is it allowed financial institutions to feel more comfortable about the banking aspect of a product which is still considered a Schedule I drug by the federal government. So, we had medical marijuana sites that were carting along bags of cash because they couldn't use the banking system which is crazy, but anyway, hopefully it means that there'll be greater investment in the processing piece, because I think that's the piece we really need to push on and make happen. And we already have the research. We know what we can make from stuff. You can see some of the things here, and I think these are literally a drop in the bucket for the possibilities that we have. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to see interest in this and way we see we can literally move it forward. Transition Town Media is a great organization, and I love the fact that they're behind it, and look forward to moving forward and working with you on the state level as we go forward. So thank you for